What's up YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have something really exciting to show you guys. I finally pulled the trigger on some new wheels for the Land Cruiser. Check it out. In this video I'm going to tell you exactly what these wheels are, why I decided to choose these wheels, and at the end of the video I'm going to try to mount these guys on the Land Cruiser and see if they will fit. Spoiler alert, there will be some dremeling involved. For those of you who do not know what wheel this is a Japanese wheel made by Raise Engineering called the TE37x. This wheel was very popular in the 90s and was used in a lot of racing and high performance applications. Back in the early 2000s, I had a couple sets of these guys myself. Not for the truck, obviously. Once I found out that they made a version for trucks, I really wanted some. As all you 100 series Land Cruisers and Lexus LX470 owners already know, the bolt pattern for the 100 series, which is a 5x150, is not that easy to come by. The only other trucks that I know of that use the same bolt pattern as the 100 series Land Cruiser would be the Toyota Tundra and the 200 series Land Cruiser and LX570, I believe. However, for those guys, you would not be able to run the 16-inch wheel like I have here. You would have to run the 17 or 18-inch that they have available because they have bigger brake calipers. Fortunately for me, I can run the smallest wheel that they made, which is a 16x8, which in turn will give me the most amount of tire that I can possibly fit under the body of the Land Cruiser. Obviously, the bolt pattern would be one of the reasons why I decided to go with this wheel for the Land Cruiser, but also another reason is because these guys are actually forged. Now, I'm not going to go into super technical detail on what the forging process is at Raise Engineering. You could probably look up that on their website, but just so you know, these wheels are probably one of the lightest and strongest offered anywhere in the aftermarket. Another reason why I went with this guy is sizing. So obviously you can see the sticker in here says 16-inch diameter by 8-inch width. Then we have this 0 number. Now what that 0 means, it is 0 offset. Offset is basically a fancy word for backspacing. On the factory Toyota wheel, the offset is closer to plus 50 millimeters. Now what that means, actually let me show you guys. For the factory wheel, the mounting point right here is closer to the front of the barrel of the wheel. So what that does is, let's say this is the outside of the vehicle, this is the inside, the wheel would be tucked towards the inside of the vehicle. Now obviously it's not going to be a problem with stock wheels and tires, but once you start lifting and changing bigger tires, the tires will eventually hit whatever on the inside. So like your sway bar, you know, your pinch welds, all that stuff you saw in my previous video, it all hits. What I did for that was to use a spacer to put on the factory wheel to change the offset from being right here to about closer to here with the 20 mil offset. So that pushes the wheel slightly out. It clears all the stuff on the inside of the vehicle. Plus it gives it a slightly better stance because, you know, the wheels are pushed out, looks kind of better. Now on this wheel, because it is a 0 offset, what that means is where the surface bolts onto the hub right here is exactly in the middle of the wheel. So that's what a 0 offset means. So that basically pushes the wheel out even further than what I have with the spacers. Now that's great for as far as inside clearance of the wheel, but when you push it out too far, you have the chance of rubbing the front bumper or the back of the fender, stuff like that. That's one of the things that I will have to find out as soon as I get these guys mounted. But before we get them mounted, there are a couple things that I wanted to do. Number one is switch out these all-terrains for the mud terrains that I currently have on the Land Cruiser. These tires aren't bad. They are actually in really good shape, but just because I have the mud terrains, then it's one of those why not things. Another thing that I'll have to do is change out the lug nuts, which I have right here. So these are the lug nuts that I'll be using. As you can see, they are pretty small, so compared to a factory lug nut, so you got the factory one and that one. So the factory one is the acorn style lug nut, and as you can see, the aftermarket is the Gorilla one is a lot smaller. So let me show you. Reason why you can't use a factory one is because they're clearly too big. They do not fit. So I will need to use these guys, which fit perfectly in the little hole. And of course, the company that makes this wheel, the Raise Engineering, have their own lug nuts. But the reason why I went with these guys, which is the little Gorilla lug nuts, is because I've been actually using these on the RX-7 for a long time, and they have yet to fail me once. So that is the reason why I like these. The last thing I wanted to do with these wheels before they go on the Land Cruiser is to actually ceramic coat these guys. Now, I've never done a ceramic coating before, and I hear it's relatively easy, but you guys are gonna be like, yo, you know, it's an off-road truck, who cares if the wheels get dirty? Yeah, for sure. But that one time a year that I do wash the Land Cruiser, I want to use as little effort as possible and get the best results. So if it only takes me, you know, a hose and 5 seconds to hose these guys down to make it look all brand new again, then why not? Plus, these guys are rather expensive, so I want to keep them in the best shape as possible. Now, these guys were used, so the previous owner actually took pretty good care of them, so there aren't any nicks or scratches on these guys, and I would love to keep them that way. Anyhow, enough talking, let's go get these guys mounted. Tires are all loaded, and almost forgot these guys. It'd be interesting to mount these guys without the correct lug nuts. Right now it's later in the day, and I finally got the TEs mounted. Check them out. So like I said before, these guys were a better offset compared to the factory wheels, even with the spacers. So when I got them mounted, you'll notice that there is no spacer in between the wheel hub and the wheel itself. So that is probably the safer bet as far as running anything goes, not only an off-roader. They do stick out a little bit more, just as expected, compared to the factory wheels with the spacer setup, but it's not too bad. You can see maybe a little bit more in the front. And then let's go check the rear. And on the rear, little bit out in the rear too. So like, if you're not comfortable with the tires sticking out just barely, then I definitely would not recommend a zero offset. That's a better view of from the top. This is the rear, and then we can check out the front. So it does stick out a little bit, but I do have to say, because it sticks out a little bit more now, it does look a whole lot more aggressive compared to what it was before. Before it was pretty good, you know, for a gentleman's off-roader. Now we're going a little bit beyond that. You can see the shoulders of the tires sticking out a little bit more than previously. And I don't know, I kind of like it. The gray goes actually pretty good with the body of the Land Cruiser. I mean, it's a different color of gray, obviously, from the faded body trim, but I think it works okay. I never really thought of myself as a dark wheel type of person, obviously, because I had the chrome wheels for the longest time. but I think these guys work. One of the big things is after you take off the factory wheels, you can see there's no wheel cover for the center hub. So all the dirt and grime is just right there. Probably have to give it a thorough wash, do something about that, because it does make it look kind of tacky. And on the rear, the axle doesn't have the hub and all that stuff on there, but you can see it's still kind of dirty with some dirt and some mud, so that will have to be cleaned up. And for the big question that you guys always ask, does it rub? Let me confirm, it sure does. Let me show you where. So it's only been a little while since I got these guys mounted, but I do notice it rubbing from the back of the front wheel. You can see right here, this plastic piece, I guess because the wheel was pushed outward more, when it turns it hits more of this plastic, and I think it's pulling up the a little bit of the fender too, so I'll have to do something about that. So this actually kind of broke just right now, I think. As far as the front goes, I haven't had any rubbing on the passenger side on the front, but on the driver's side, let's take a look. I do hear stuff on the driver's side, but I don't think it's rubbing. Maybe it's this, I'm not sure. Oh, I think it is this. It's rubbing on the front of the bumper. On the rear, there is some rubbing, but it could be that this plastic piece just needs a little bit more trimming, but we'll have to see. Yes, so it does rub, but nothing an angle grinder and a hammer cannot fix. So what do you guys think? Is it worth the $3,000 investment, or should I have gone a cheaper route? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it and learned a little bit about wheel and wheel offset. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit that like button, and for more Land Cruiser and Overland content, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.